The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the massive chamber, their various forms creating a colorful display of alien life. Some floated in special containers filled with gas. Others stood on multiple legs and a few hung from the ceiling by their wings. But today all eyes were focused on the center stage where General Vex Mordain of the Vorthan Empire stood proudly. Commander Lee Jun sat quietly in the human section, his dark eyes watching everything carefully. Next to him, Dr. Kim Hana adjusted her translator device and made notes on her tablet. They were the only humans present as always. Most species in the galaxy barely noticed them. Humans were new to the galactic community, having only joined 50 years ago. They were considered harmless explorers who preferred to study plants and rocks rather than build great armies. General Mordain was different from the humans. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his thick armor gleaming under the chamber lights. His species, the Vorthans, were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. They had conquered dozens of worlds in the past century. Their ships were large and powerful, their weapons devastating. Most species feared them, and with good reason. Citizens of the galaxy, Mordain's voice boomed through the chamber, automatically translated into hundreds of languages. I come before you today to announce the Vorthan Empire's next glorious campaign. A ripple of concern went through the crowd. The last time Mordain had made such an announcement, the peaceful Marathi had lost their homeworld within a week. Their crystal cities had been reduced to dust, and their survivors scattered across refugee camps on distant planets. Our target, Mordain continued, his 4 eyes gleaming with anticipation, is the human colonies in the outer rim sectors. The reaction was immediate, but not what anyone expected. Instead of gasps of horror or calls for intervention, the chamber filled with confused murmurs. Many representatives turned to look at each other with puzzled expressions. Some even laughed. Councillor Thylan, the elderly representative of the Zenthari people, slowly stood up. His ancient form trembled slightly as he spoke. General Mordain, forgive an old being's confusion, but did you say humans? Yes, Mordain replied, seeming pleased by the attention. The soft-skinned weaklings who spend their time collecting space dust and growing flowers in their little colonies. The murmurs grew louder. Near the back of the chamber, a Grecan merchant was heard saying, Has the general lost his mind? Why waste time on humans? They barely have any defenses. Another voice called out, There's no profit in conquering humans. They don't have anything valuable. Dr. Kim Hana exchanged a glance with Commander Lee Jun. Both humans remained calm, showing no emotion at the insults being thrown around the chamber. This was nothing new for them. The galaxy had always underestimated their species. General Mordain raised his massive arms for silence. You all failed to see the bigger picture. Yes, humans are weak. Yes, they are primitives who waste time on science and art instead of building proper weapons. But they control several resource-rich systems. Their colonies sit on valuable trade routes. Once we sweep aside their pathetic defenses, these territories will serve the Empire well. He activated a holographic display showing the human colonies. Red arrows indicated planned attack routes, while Vorthan fleet symbols moved across the map like predators circling prey. Our intelligence reports show that human military forces consist mostly of exploration, vessels with light defensive capabilities. They have no proper warships, no battle stations, and no warrior culture. Their largest military installation is actually a research facility that studies alien plant life. Laughter erupted from several sections of the chamber. The idea of botanists trying to fight the mighty Vorthan Empire was apparently hilarious to many species. The conquest will take perhaps 10 days, Mordain boasted. Their colonies will surrender after the first demonstration of our power. Humans are known for their emotional weakness. They value individual lives over military victory. Show them casualties and they will collapse immediately. Commander Lee Jun finally stood up. The chamber fell silent as the human requested permission to speak. It was rare for humans to address the council directly. Honored General, Lee Jun said in his calm, measured voice, We have heard your declaration. The Human Federation would like to make a formal request. Speak. Primitive, Mordain replied dismissively. We request that this declaration be officially recorded in the Galactic Council archives for historical purposes. We also request that all member species be notified of the Vorthan Empire's intentions regarding human space. The request puzzled many representatives. Dr. Kim Hana stood next to her colleague and added, "We also request that neutral observers be allowed to monitor the situation as it develops. For accurate record-keeping." General Mordain laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Record all you wish, humans. Let the galaxy watch as the Vorthan Empire adds your worlds to our collection. Your Federation will become a footnote in the history of our glorious expansion." "Very well," Li Jun replied simply. "That is all we wish to say." The two humans sat down, causing a wave of confusion throughout the chamber. Many representatives had expected pleading, offers of tribute, or at least some form of diplomatic negotiation. Instead, the humans had simply asked for documentation and observers. Councillor Thylan frowned deeply. Something about the humans' reaction troubled him. In his many centuries of life, he had seen countless species face extinction. They all reacted the same way, with fear, anger, desperation, or attempts to bargain. But these humans seemed prepared. The formal vote was called. As expected, no species was willing to interfere with Vorthon expansion plans. The Empire was too powerful, and humans were considered too insignificant to risk conflict over. The declaration was officially recorded and would be transmitted to all member worlds within the day. As the session ended and representatives began filing out, many were already placing bets on how long the human colonies would last. The popular opinion was 3 to 5 days before complete surrender. Some optimistic gamblers gave humans a full week. General Mordain strode from the chamber, his armor clanking with each heavy step. He was already composing victory speeches in his mind and planning how to divide the conquered human territories among his subordinates. The humans were among the last to leave. As they walked toward the exit, several alien representatives approached them with what seemed like genuine concern. "You should consider immediate evacuation," advised a Polarian diplomat. "The Vorthons show no mercy to those who resist." "Perhaps your people could relocate to the inner system," suggested another. "Many worlds would accept human refugees." Dr. Kim Hana smiled politely. "We appreciate your concern truly, but we'll handle this situation in our own way." "But you have no chance against them," insisted a Mexian trader. "Their fleet could destroy your entire civilization." Commander Li Jun paused at the chamber doors. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "but that remains to be seen." As the humans left, Councillor Thylan remained in his seat, staring at the empty chamber floor. Something was wrong with this picture. In all his long life, he had never seen a species react so calmly to their own announced extinction. Deep in his ancient memory, a warning stirred. Something his grandfather had told him long ago about a dangerous species from the outer rim of the galaxy, a species that looked soft and weak, but had survived multiple extinction events on their homeworld. A species that had turned survival into an art form. The warning had included a simple phrase: never corner a species that has nothing left to lose. And never underestimate a species that has learned to fight extinction itself. But surely that couldn't refer to these peaceful humans with their flower gardens and research stations. Could it? Admiral Park Soo stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Command Station, watching holographic displays that showed ship movements across human space. To any outside observer, it looked like panic. Hundreds of vessels were moving away from the outer colonies, carrying what appeared to be fleeing civilians. News broadcasts from human worlds spoke of voluntary evacuation procedures and temporary relocation for safety. But Admiral Park Soo knew better. These weren't panicked refugees running from certain death. This was the most carefully planned military operation in human history. "Status report," he commanded quietly. Captain Shin Bo materialized on the main screen, transmitting from somewhere in deep space. Her ship wasn't visible even to their own sensors thanks to the new cloaking technology she was testing. "Ghost Squadron is in position, Admiral. All 36 stealth fighters are deployed around the Kepler system. The Vorthans won't see us until we want them to." "Excellent. What about the Mjolnir stations?" Engineer Choi Min's voice came through the communication system from his secret facility on Europa. "All 12 orbital platforms are online and ready, sir. The Vorthans think they're looking at standard communication satellites. They have no idea each one can punch a hole through their largest battleship." Admiral Park Soo nodded. Humanity had learned painful lessons during their first contact with hostile aliens decades ago. They had been unprepared then, caught off guard by species that viewed them as easy prey. Never again. The evacuation ships passing by the command station looked like ordinary civilian transports. Their hulls were painted in peaceful colors. Their identification signatures broadcast civilian cargo manifests. But inside those hulls, behind specially designed false walls, were weapons systems that had taken 20 years to develop. Humanity had learned to hide their true capabilities behind facades of harmless exploration and trade. On the human colony world of New Seoul, Ambassador Yang Su was meeting with concerned alien merchants who had come to warn him about the approaching Vorthan fleet. "Ambassador," said Zek Thran, a Xanthari trader who had done business with humans for years, "you must understand the situation. The Vorthons have never been defeated in battle. Your people should surrender immediately to minimize casualties." Yang Su poured tea for his guests, a habit that always seemed to confuse aliens. How could humans remain so calm when facing extinction? "We appreciate your concern, Zek," Yang Su replied peacefully, "but we have our own methods of handling these situations." "Methods?" The alien trader's tentacles waved in agitation. "What methods?" "Your military consists of exploration ships and research vessels. The Vorthons have conquered civilizations with 10 times your firepower." "Perhaps," Yang Su said, offering cookies to go with the tea. "But we'll manage." The alien delegation left more confused than when they arrived. How could an entire species be so calm about their upcoming destruction? What they didn't know was that beneath New Seoul, massive underground facilities hummed with activity. These weren't just colonial administrative buildings. They were command centers that coordinated defensive operations across dozens of star systems. The research facilities scattered across human worlds weren't studying alien plants. They were analyzing enemy ship designs, weapon capabilities, and tactical patterns. Lieutenant Kang Jun was stationed on one of the evacuation ships, the civilian transport Peaceful Trader. He watched his instruments carefully as they approached the edge of the Kepler system. Around him, other crew members went about their duties with quiet efficiency. They all wore civilian clothes, but Jun could see the military training and how they moved and communicated. "Contact ahead," reported the sensor operator. "Vorthon scout ship, just like intelligence predicted." The ship's captain, who was dressed like a merchant but moved like a veteran military officer, nodded calmly. "Stay on course. Act normal. Let them see exactly what they expect to see." The Vorthan scout ship scanned them thoroughly, but found only what appeared to be frightened human civilians fleeing their homes with whatever belongings they could carry. The enemy ship moved on, reporting back to the main fleet that human resistance would be minimal. What the Vorthon scanners couldn't detect were the military-grade sensors hidden throughout the civilian ship's hull, recording every detail about enemy technology and tactics. By the time the scout ship left, humans knew the exact specifications of Vorthon shields, weapons, and engine systems. Commander No-A sat in a hidden facility on Pluto, monitoring communications across the galaxy. Her team had been listening to Vorthon military transmissions for months, learning their language, understanding their tactics, and predicting their moves. The aliens used advanced encryption, but they had made one critical mistake. They assumed humans were too primitive to break their codes. They were wrong. Human computers had been running calculations for weeks, finding patterns in the enemy transmissions. Now Commander No-A's team could understand every order, every battle plan, and every tactical discussion in the Vorthan fleet. "Admiral Park Soo," she reported through secure channels, "the enemy fleet is moving exactly as predicted. They plan to arrive at Kepler 442 in 72 hours. Fleet composition matches our intelligence. 43 heavy cruisers, 18 battleships, and over 200 smaller vessels. Any changes to their attack pattern?" "None, sir. They're so confident in easy victory that they're not even bothering with advanced tactics. They plan a simple direct assault on what they think are defenseless colonies." Admiral Park Soo allowed himself a small smile. Overconfidence was the enemy's greatest weakness. On Earth, President Lee Da was preparing to address the human population. Her speech would be broadcast to every human world and colony, but it would also be monitored by alien intelligence services. She had to choose her words carefully. "Citizens of the Human Federation," she began, her voice calm and steady, "we face a challenge from those who mistake our peaceful nature for weakness. We have always sought friendship with all species in the galaxy. We have shared our knowledge, our resources, and our culture freely. But we will not share our freedom." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Our ancestors survived ice ages, global wars, plagues, and natural disasters that would have destroyed other species. We learned that survival requires two things: the hope for peace and the preparation for war. Today we hope for peace, but we are prepared for war. The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. Most alien species interpreted it as typical human emotion and empty bravado, but a few, like old Counselor Thylon, heard something different in the human leader's voice. They heard confidence. They heard certainty. They heard the voice of a species that had no intention of dying quietly. In the Vorthan Empire's capital, Emperor Vex Supreme laughed as he watched the human president's speech. "Look at this pathetic creature," he told his advisors. "She speaks of preparation for war. What war? We could destroy their entire fleet before they could launch a single missile." General Mordain agreed enthusiastically. "My lord, our intelligence confirms that human military capability is exactly what we expected. They have perhaps 50 ships that could even be considered military vessels, and most of those are just armed exploration craft. Their largest battleship would barely qualify as a patrol boat in our fleet. What the Vorthan intelligence services didn't realize was that their information was completely wrong. They were seeing only what humans wanted them to see. The real human fleet was hidden behind false identifications, cloaking technology, and carefully maintained deceptions that had taken decades to perfect. The truth was that humanity had learned from every conflict in their history. They had studied the tactics of every aggressive species in the galaxy. They had prepared for this moment since the day they first encountered aliens who viewed them as prey. As the Vorthan fleet approached human space, confident in their overwhelming superiority, human forces were quietly taking their final positions. Admiral Park Su issued his last orders to the fleet. "Remember, we are not the aggressors. We seek only to defend our homes and our freedom. But when they fire the first shot, show them what humans are truly capable of." Captain Shinbo received her orders while floating invisible in the darkness between stars. Her stealth squadron would strike first, hitting the enemy from behind while their attention was focused forward. Engineer Choi Min completed the final calibrations on the Mjolnir orbital platforms. Each one contained enough firepower to crack a moon in half, but they appeared on all sensors as harmless communication. Satellites dodged Lieutenant Kang Jun and thousands, like him, prepared to drop their civilian disguises and reveal the true nature of their evacuation ships. And throughout human space, millions of people went about their daily lives, confident in their military's ability to protect them. They grew their gardens, conducted their research, and raised their children, secure in the knowledge that their peaceful way of life was defended by the most prepared and determined military force the galaxy had ever seen. The Vorthan Empire was about to learn a lesson that many species throughout human history had learned too late. Never mistake kindness for weakness, and never assume that a peaceful species cannot fight when cornered. The trap was set. The enemy was coming, and humanity was ready. War leader Brax stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, as the massive Vorthan fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 4E42 system. Around him, 43 heavy cruisers and 18 battleships formed an impressive display of military might. Smaller escort vessels filled the spaces between, creating a formation that had conquered dozens of worlds. "Sensor report," Brax commanded, his voice filled with anticipation. "Sir," replied his tactical officer, "we detect multiple human vessels in the system. They appear to be civilian transports moving away from the colony world at maximum speed." Brax laughed, the sound echoing through the bridge, as expected. "The cowards are fleeing before we even announce our presence." "How many ships?" "Approximately 60 vessels, War Leader, all showing civilian identification codes. No military signatures detected." "Perfect. Open a channel to the lead transport." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of what appeared to be a standard civilian cargo ship. A human in simple work clothes appeared on screen, his face showing obvious fear. "This is Captain Park of the transport ship New Horizon," the human said, his voice shaking. "Please, we're just civilians trying to evacuate. We have families and children aboard." War Leader Brax smiled cruelly. "Human, you are now subjects of the Vorthan Empire. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the destruction of your vessel." "Please," the human captain begged. "We're not military. We're just trying to get away. Let us go and we won't cause any trouble." "Your terror amuses me," Brax replied. "But the Empire requires an example to be made. All human vessels will be destroyed to demonstrate the price of defying Vorthon power. He cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. Target the lead transport. Fire a warning shot across their bow. Let them panic for a few moments before we destroy them all. The Vorthon ship's plasma cannons fired, sending brilliant streams of energy past the human vessel. On the screen, they could see the civilian transport shaking from the near miss. Its crew apparently terrified, but Lieutenant Kang Jun, wearing his civilian disguise on the bridge of the disguised military vessel Retribution, was not terrified at all. He was waiting. "Sir," his communications officer reported through their internal military channel. "All ships in the fleet report ready. Stealth squadron is in position. Orbital platforms are online." "Understood," replied the ship's real captain, Admiral Osang, who had been hiding in the combat information center below decks. "Wait for the enemy to fire first. Let them be the aggressors." War Leader Brax was enjoying the show. "Look at them scatter like frightened animals. Target the largest transport. Full power. Turn it into space dust." The Vorthon flagship's main weapon systems charged up, preparing to deliver a devastating blow. But as the energy beams fired toward the human ship, something unexpected happened. The civilian transport's hull began to change. Panels slid away, revealing the sleek armor plating underneath. Defensive systems that had been carefully hidden suddenly came online. The ship's true identification appeared on sensors: UFS Retribution, heavy battlecruiser, the Vorthon plasma beams, designed to punch through civilian hulls like paper, struck the Retribution's adaptive shielding and were absorbed harmlessly. "What?" War Leader Brax stepped back in shock. "That's impossible." "Our weapons should have destroyed that ship." His shock turned to disbelief as similar transformations occurred throughout the human fleet. 60 civilian transports revealed themselves to be heavily armed military vessels. But that was only the beginning. Captain Shinbo's voice came through on the Vorthon command frequency, somehow having broken their secure communications. "Hello, War Leader Brax. This is Ghost Squadron. We've been watching you." 36 stealth fighters materialized out of empty space, appearing directly behind the Vorthon formation. They had been invisible until this moment, using cloaking technology that made them undetectable to enemy sensors. "Impossible," Brax whispered. "Our scanners would have detected any ships." "Your scanners are obsolete," came another voice, this one from Engineer Choi Min's control center. "Allow us to demonstrate modern human technology." The 12 communication satellites orbiting the system suddenly revealed their true nature. The Mjolnir orbital defense platforms had been hiding in plain sight, appearing on all scans as harmless civilian infrastructure. Now they powered up their massive railgun systems. War Leader Brax watched in growing horror as his tactical display completely changed. What had appeared to be empty space filled with human ships. What had seemed like defenseless civilian vessels transformed into a coordinated military fleet. What had looked like communication satellites became orbital weapons platforms. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, his voice cracking with panic. "We're surrounded. Human ships are appearing on all sides. They've been hiding among the asteroids, behind the moons, even inside the debris fields." "How many ships?" Brax demanded. I count over 300 vessels, sir, and more are still appearing." Admiral Park Su's voice came through the communication system, calm and professional. "War Leader Brax, this is Admiral Park Su of the Human Defense Fleet. You have fired upon civilian vessels in human space. This is an act of war. You have one opportunity to surrender." War Leader Brax snarled in rage. "Never! We are the Vorthon Empire. We do not surrender to primitives." "Then you have chosen poorly," Admiral Park Su replied sadly. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Vorthon Empire had ever experienced. Their plasma weapons, devastating against most alien species, proved nearly useless against human adaptive shielding technology. The energy was absorbed, analyzed, and the shields automatically adjusted to provide better protection. Meanwhile, human weapons were terrifyingly effective. Kinetic railguns fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, punching through Vorthon armor like it was made of paper. Particle beam weapons struck with surgical precision, disabling enemy ships rather than destroying them completely. Captain Shinbo's Ghost Squadron moved through the Vorthon fleet like phantoms, their stealth technology allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Each attack was perfectly coordinated, targeting weapon systems and engines to disable rather than destroy. "Sir," reported a Vorthon tactical officer, We've lost 18 ships in the first 5 minutes. Our weapons can't penetrate their defenses, and their weapons are cutting through our armor like it's not even there. The Mjolnir orbital platforms demonstrated their devastating power, sending metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. Each shot could destroy a Vorthan cruiser with a single hit. But the human gunners were precise, targeting engine sections and weapon arrays to disable ships rather than killing their crews. Commander No-I, monitoring communications from her facility on Pluto, was listening to Vorthan tactical chatter. Admiral, the enemy is in complete panic. They're reporting weapons failures, shield failures, and communication disruptions. Their command structure is collapsing. Any word from their home fleet? Yes, sir. War Leader Brax is trying to send distress signals, but we're jamming most of their transmissions. Only fragments are getting through. Admiral Park-Soo made a decision that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Instead of pressing the attack and destroying the Vorthan fleet completely, he ordered his ships to cease fire. Attention, Vorthan vessels, his voice broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Park-Soo. Your fleet is defeated. Your weapons cannot harm us, and our weapons can destroy you at will. I am offering you one final chance to surrender with honor. War Leader Brax, watching his mighty fleet being systematically disabled by what he had thought were primitive humans, faced the hardest decision of his military career. Half his ships were already disabled. His weapons were useless. His communication with the Empire was cut off, but his pride was still intact. All ships, he commanded, retreat immediately. Emergency jump to hyperspace. The surviving Vorthan vessels, those still capable of movement, began their escape sequence. As they prepared to flee, War Leader Brax sent one final message to his empire. The humans were ready for us. This was a trap. They're not primitives. They're not weak. We have awakened something terrible. As the Vorthan ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind dozens of disabled vessels and debris fields, the human fleet maintained their positions. They had won the first battle, but Admiral Park-Soo knew this was only the beginning. Lieutenant Kang Jun, still on the bridge of the Retribution, looked at the tactical display showing the retreating enemy. Sir, should we pursue them? Admiral Osang, now openly commanding from the bridge, shook his head. No, let them carry word back to their empire. Let them tell their leaders what they found here. Throughout the galaxy, sensor networks detected the battle's conclusion. The news spread faster than hyperspace communication. The mighty Vorthan Empire had been defeated by humans. Species that had placed bets on humanity's quick destruction were stunned into silence. But in the depths of space, heading back toward Vorthan territory, War Leader Brax was composing a very different message than the victory report he had expected to send. His message would change the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. Emperor Vex Supreme, his report began, we have encountered the human fleet. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called within hours of the first reports reaching civilization centers across the galaxy. Representatives who had been laughing about human weakness just days before now sat in stunned silence as they watched recordings of the battle at Kepler 442. Counselor Thylan stood at his speaking platform, his ancient form trembling with what might have been excitement or fear. Fellow representatives, we have witnessed something unprecedented. The Vorthan Empire, undefeated in over 2 centuries of conquest, has been soundly beaten by the species we all considered the weakest in the galaxy. The holographic display showed battle footage captured by long-range sensors. Vorthan ships, their hulls torn open by human weapons, human vessels appearing out of nowhere, their stealth technology making them invisible until they chose to attack. Most shocking of all, the clinical precision with which humans had disabled rather than destroyed their enemies. This changes everything, whispered the Polarian ambassador. If humans can defeat the Vorthans, what does that mean for the rest of us? Reporter Zith, broadcasting to news networks across known space, spoke rapidly into her recording device. This is Zyth reporting from the Galactic Council. What we're seeing here defies all previous understanding of human capabilities. Species that placed bets against human survival are now frantically trying to cancel their wagers, but the real shock came when President Li Da of the Human Federation requested permission to address the council. She appeared on the main screen broadcasting from Earth. Her calm demeanor was the same as always, but now it carried a different weight. Honored representatives, she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity has always sought peace with all species. We have shared our knowledge, our culture, and our resources freely. We have asked only to be left alone to explore the universe and learn from our galactic neighbors." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But we will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved, and we will not allow aggressive species to threaten peaceful worlds under our protection." The last phrase caused a stir throughout the chamber. Under our protection? When had humans started protecting other worlds? Ambassador Yang Su, now revealed to be more than just a colonial administrator, provided the answer. For the past 20 years, the Human Federation has been quietly upgrading defensive systems for 37 peaceful species. We have shared our technology, our early warning networks, and our tactical knowledge with anyone who asked for help defending themselves. The revelation sent shockwaves through the galactic community. While everyone had been focused on human weakness, humanity had been building a network of mutual defense agreements with species that preferred peace to conquest. On the Vorthan homeworld of Korath Prime, Emperor Vex Supreme was having a very different reaction to the news. His throne room echoed with the sound of his rage as he received War Leader Brax's full report. "Impossible," he roared, his massive form towering over his cowering advisors. "Humans are weaklings. Our intelligence confirmed this repeatedly." "My lord," General Mordain said carefully, "it appears our intelligence was incomplete." "Incomplete?" The Emperor's voice could have shattered stone. "They destroyed half our expeditionary fleet without losing a single ship." "How is that incomplete intelligence?" War Leader Brax, still recovering from his defeat, stood before his ruler with unusual humility. "My Emperor, the humans were ready for us. They knew exactly when we would attack, where we would attack, and how we would attack. Their entire defense was specifically designed to counter our weapons and tactics." Emperor Vex Supreme studied the tactical recordings of the battle. What he saw made his blood run cold. Human weapons that could punch through Vorthan armor like it was made of soft clay. Human shields that absorbed their most powerful plasma cannons without even flickering. Human stealth technology that made their ships completely invisible to Vorthan sensors. How long have they been preparing for war with us? Unknown, my lord, but based on the sophistication of their defenses, I would estimate decades. The Emperor's advisors exchanged nervous glances. If humans had been preparing for this conflict for decades, what else were they hiding? General Kim Woo, Earth's top military strategist, was asking himself the same question from the human perspective. In his command center deep beneath the mountains of Korea, he was coordinating what he called Operation Prometheus, humanity's response to the Vorthan threat. "Status report on all sectors," he commanded. "Sir," reported his intelligence chief, "Vorthan fleet movements suggest they're gathering for a massive retaliation strike. We're detecting mobilization across 12 systems. Estimated force size over 2,000 vessels. Expected timeline? They'll need at least 2 weeks to coordinate an attack of that size. But sir, we have another problem. Other aggressive species are watching this conflict closely. If we appear weak at any point, we could face attacks from multiple directions." General Kim Woo nodded grimly. "Then we don't appear weak, ever. Contact Admiral Fleet Command. I want Operation Prometheus to go active immediately." What the galaxy didn't know was that the battle at Kepler 442 had been humanity's opening move, not their desperate last stand. The real human fleet was still hidden, still preparing, still waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. On worlds throughout the galaxy, species were having urgent discussions about their relationships with both humans and the Vorthan Empire. The balance of power that had remained stable for centuries was suddenly shifting. The Zenthari Collective called an emergency meeting of their ruling council. Councillor Thylon addressed his people via quantum communication from the Galactic Council chambers. "My people," he said, his ancient voice carrying the weight of prophecy, "I have lived for over 400 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched as species conquered the galaxy through strength, cunning, or technology. But I have never seen anything like what the humans have accomplished." "What makes them different?" asked a younger Zenthari. "Every other species conquers through superiority. They build bigger weapons, stronger shields, faster ships. The humans conquered through preparation, patience, and the promise of protection rather than domination. They have turned defense into an art form." Dr. Bayu, working in her laboratory on Europa, was monitoring communication networks across the galaxy. Her breakthrough in faster-than-light communication technology was allowing humanity to coordinate responses across vast distances almost instantaneously. "General Kim Woo," she reported, I'm detecting significant changes in trade patterns. Over 50 species have initiated contact with our diplomatic corps in the past 12 hours. They're requesting defense agreements, technology sharing, and mutual protection treaties. Any hostile responses? 3 species have issued statements supporting the Vorthon Empire. But Sir, intelligence indicates they're doing so out of fear rather than genuine alliance. They're afraid that if the Vorthons fall, they'll be next. The most significant development came from an unexpected source. The Mexian Trade Federation, one of the galaxy's most powerful economic forces, announced that they were shifting their primary trade routes to pass through human space. Human space, declared Trade Minister Vex Corin, has proven to be the most secure shipping lane in the galaxy. Our merchants report that piracy has dropped to 0 in systems protected by human patrol ships. This announcement triggered a cascade of similar decisions. Within days, major trade routes that had avoided human space for decades began flowing through human systems. The economic implications were staggering. Emperor Vex Supreme watched these developments with growing alarm. The humans weren't just winning military victories. They were winning the economic and diplomatic war as well. "My lord," reported his intelligence chief, "we've intercepted communications between human forces and 43 different species. They're coordinating some kind of mutual defense network. How is this possible? 3 days ago, humans were considered irrelevant. Now they're the center of galactic politics. Sir, our analysis suggests that humans have been building these relationships for decades. We were so focused on their apparent military weakness that we completely missed their diplomatic and economic activities." Diplomat. Ryuhan was coordinating these diplomatic efforts from the human embassy on Nexus Prime. Her office had become the busiest location on the diplomatic world as representatives from dozens of species requested meetings. "Ambassador," said the Polarian representative, "our government would like to discuss upgrading our defense systems using human technology." "Of course," Ryuhan replied professionally. "We're always happy to help peaceful species protect themselves, and in return, we ask only for friendship and the promise that you will not support aggressive actions against peaceful worlds." It was the same conversation she had been having all day with different species. Humanity's offer was simple: protection and advanced technology in exchange for peaceful cooperation and mutual defense. Meanwhile, the Vorthon Empire was discovering that their military preparations were being observed and analyzed by human intelligence networks. Commander No-A's teams were intercepting Vorthon communications faster than they could be encrypted. "Admiral Park Su," she reported. Fleet Admiral Oh Sang stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the UFS Terra's Shield, watching as the massive Vorthon armada approached Earth's solar system. 2,000 enemy ships filled the darkness of space, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. It was an impressive sight that would have terrified any other species in the galaxy. But Admiral Oh Sang was not terrified. He was calm, prepared, and ready to end this conflict once and for all. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the Vorthon fleet has dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of our system. They're forming attack formations around Jupiter." "As expected," Oh Sang replied quietly. "Signal all human forces. Execute Operation Final Lesson." What happened next would be remembered as the most decisive military action in galactic history. The Vorthon fleet, confident in their overwhelming numbers, began their advance toward Earth. Emperor Vex Supreme himself was aboard the command ship, determined to personally oversee the destruction of the human homeworld. "At last," the Emperor declared to his gathered admirals, "we will show the galaxy what happens to those who dare resist the Vorthon Empire. Today we crush humanity completely, but as the Vorthon ships moved deeper into the solar system, they encountered something unexpected. What appeared to be empty space began revealing hidden defenders. Not just ships, but entire defensive installations that had been invisible to their sensors. Dr. Baiyu's communication breakthrough had allowed humanity to coordinate not just across star systems, but across dimensions of space itself. Cloaking technology that had seemed impossible was now routine. Human forces appeared everywhere at once. The asteroid belt suddenly came alive with weapons platforms that had been disguised as floating rocks. The moons of Jupiter revealed themselves to be enormous military bases. Even the space around Earth itself transformed as hidden orbital stations materialized from apparent nothingness. "Impossible," whispered Emperor Vex Supreme as his tactical Display showed the true scope of human defenses. There must be 10,000 defensive positions. How did they hide so many installations? War Leader Brax, commanding a sector of the fleet, had seen human capabilities before. But even he was shocked by what surrounded them now.
My Emperor, we are not facing a desperate last stand.
We are flying into the most sophisticated defensive network ever constructed. Admiral Osang's voice came through on all Vorthon communication frequencies, somehow penetrating their most secure channels. Emperor Vex Supreme, this is Fleet Admiral Osang of the Human Defense Force. You have brought your entire fleet to attack our homeworld. This was unwise. Human, the Emperor roared back. You may have hidden weapons, but you cannot match our numbers. We have 2,000 ships. Numbers are irrelevant when your technology is obsolete. Osang replied calmly. Let me demonstrate. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration of technological superiority so complete that it redefined warfare itself. Human ships didn't just appear from cloaking. They materialized from folded space using technology that bent reality around them. Their weapons didn't just fire energy or projectiles. They manipulated matter at the quantum level, disabling enemy systems without destroying ships or killing crews. Captain Shin Bo, now commanding an entire squadron of advanced fighters, led attacks that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Her ships moved through Vorthon formations like ghosts, appearing inside enemy shields to disable weapons and engines with surgical precision. Engineer Choi Min's latest creations weren't just orbital platforms. They were reality-altering devices that could project force fields across entire regions of space, creating barriers that no weapon could penetrate and traps that no ship could escape. The Vorthon fleet, spread across the solar system in what they had thought was an unstoppable formation, found themselves systematically disabled by weapons they couldn't understand, deployed by enemies they couldn't target, coordinated by technology they couldn't comprehend. Emperor, reported a panicked tactical officer, we've lost 60% of our fleet capability in the first hour. Our weapons can't penetrate their defenses. Our sensors can't track their movements. Our communications are being intercepted and jammed at will. Emperor Vex Supreme stared at his tactical display in growing horror. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Vorthon Empire, was being dismantled piece by enemies who seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But the most shocking moment came when Admiral Osang made an announcement that changed galactic politics forever. Emperor Vex Supreme, you came here to destroy humanity and conquer our worlds. But you made one critical error in your planning. You assumed we would fight defensively. Suddenly, Vorthon sensors detected new signatures throughout their home territory. Human fleets were appearing in orbit around every major Vorthon world simultaneously, not through faster-than-light travel, but through technology that allowed them to be in multiple places at the same time. How? The Emperor gasped. We have been preparing for this moment for 50 years, Admiral Osang explained. While you were conquering weaker species, we were studying you, learning your technology, understanding your tactics, planning for the day when your aggression would force us to end your threat permanently. Commander No-I, coordinating intelligence operations across dozens of star systems simultaneously, reported to Admiral Osang, Sir, we have complete control of Vorthon communication networks. Their government is unable to coordinate any response. Their military command structure has collapsed. The battle, if it could be called that, was over in less than 3 hours. The entire Vorthon fleet was disabled, not destroyed. Their crews were alive but helpless. Their emperor was a prisoner aboard his own flagship. But Admiral Osang's next decision surprised everyone, including his own officers. Emperor Vex Supreme, he said, opening a direct communication channel. I am prepared to offer you terms for surrender. Terms? The Emperor sputtered. You could destroy us completely. Why offer terms? Because humanity does not seek conquest. We seek peace. Your empire has been the galaxy's greatest threat to peace for 2 centuries. That threat must end, but your people need not die. The terms were simple and non-negotiable. The Vorthon Empire would disarm completely. Their military would be dissolved. Their territorial conquests would be returned to their original inhabitants. In exchange, Vorthon worlds would be protected by human defensive networks and given access to human technology for peaceful development. And if we refuse? The Emperor asked. Admiral Osang's response was delivered with quiet certainty. Then your empire ends today, and your worlds become uninhabitable. We prefer the peaceful solution. Emperor Vex Supreme, facing the complete destruction of everything his people had built over centuries, made the only choice available to him. I accept your terms. The surrender was broadcast across the galaxy instantly thanks to Dr. Bayou's communication network. Species that had feared Vorthon conquest for generations watched in amazement as the galaxy's most aggressive empire submitted to terms dictated by the species they had all considered weakest. But the real transformation came in the aftermath. Diplomat Ryu Han, now elevated to the position of Galactic Coordinator, began implementing what became known as the New Peace Accords. The principles were simple. Any species could join the Mutual Defense Network by agreeing to resolve conflicts peacefully and protect weaker civilizations. In return, they would receive advanced defensive technology and protection from aggressive neighbors. Within months, over 200 species had joined the accords. Trade flourished under human protection. Scientific cooperation reached levels never before achieved. Wars between species became virtually extinct as the cost of aggression became too high to bear. Counselor Thylon, now revealed to be over 500 years old, addressed the reformed Galactic Council from his seat as its new elder statesman. "I have lived through the rise and fall of 7 galactic empires," he said, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. Each one conquered through force and ruled through fear. Each one eventually collapsed when their enemies became stronger or their subjects rebelled. He paused, looking around the chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, all now protected by human defensive networks. But humanity has accomplished something unprecedented. They conquered without conquest. They achieved dominance through protection rather than aggression. They created an empire based on voluntary participation rather than forced submission. President Li Da, now recognized as the de facto leader of galactic civilization, addressed the assembly via quantum communication from Earth. "We never wanted to rule the galaxy," she said, her words broadcast to trillions of beings across known space. "We wanted only to explore it, to learn from it, and to contribute to its growth and prosperity. But we learned long ago that peace must sometimes be enforced by those capable of war." She smiled, and somehow that simple human expression conveyed both warmth and quiet strength. "Today, we offer every species in the galaxy the same choice we offered the Vorthons. Join us in building a peaceful future, or stand aside while others do so. But we will no longer tolerate aggression against peaceful worlds." The transformation of galactic civilization was swift and complete. Former enemies became allies.